This is a podcast between Conor Gibbons from Capital Homes and Chris Airy from Compendium Solutions. Welcome to our show, Leaders with Suspicions. I hope you enjoy.
You alluded there that 2025 is going to be a good year and you're ready for growth. So why don't you take us through your journey, why you started this business, what have been the ups and downs, and why 2025 is going to be a great year?
So, much like most contractors, I started off very small, growing up, always in the construction field, having a passion for carpentry, and then that snowballing into, tile work, and then just the general trade of construction. With that, we just grew over the course of 10 plus years, really always striving to be better and better and better and keeping up with technology and growing trends to the best of the capabilities, of course, especially without having business background or actual construction education. Everything has always been self-taught along the way. And I do feel like that is the going trend for most contractors in Canada, or at least in Ontario. So, growing along the way was always something that I was interested in. And just really over the last, I gotta say, about 5 years, so pre-COVID, everything kind of shut down and everything changed. It forced myself and probably a lot of contractors to sit back with these restrictions and think, how are we going to get by when we're not allowed in people's homes, we're not allowed to work, this and that. So uh, I figured out certain ways that we could get around those things, which was executing more exterior renovations than interior renovations. Um, we quickly realized that during COVID, there was a huge trend of renovations and construction and the real estate market. It was all booming. So with that, I decided to really buckle down and say, this is a good thing. It will not last forever. So let's utilize this time to train more staff, close more jobs. Even if we were losing money, we'd be happy just to get more work so we can get more referrals, get more positive reviews, and grow the company that way. So we did that for a few years, and now it's really got me to an established level where customers can look up Capital Homes and quickly see that we're well established. We have amazing reviews. We have great referrals, and people aren't afraid to come and hire us because we've established ourselves and we're legitimate at this point now, right? And I feel like a lot of contractors out there may not have sacrificed the funds throughout these kinds of busy times because they would have had a little bit of greed, thinking, oh, we're going to line our own pockets. But I was just money in, money right back out because I knew that craze during COVID couldn't last forever, which brings us now to where we're at today. And I don't work in the operations of my business very much anymore. I'm about 25% of my day is working in the operations, and about 75% of it is on business development and growth. So we have, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, and 10-year plans, and we break down all those plans into incremental roadmaps, and every day something checking off the list. So we're growing every day, whether it's a big milestone or a little milestone. Everything's kind of written down and it is on a true roadmap. So it's easy to succeed, and I would recommend that to really anybody going into business. You may have a goal in mind and you may know what you want, but unless you actually put these things down and make it tangible and break it down even further so that you can actually see what kind of steps goes into each step, that's just the true way to find your way to success in anything you do, whether it's in business or physical training or diet, whatever it may be, even personal relationships, you can use that kind of method. So that's around where we're at now. We're running a lot of home shows here in the Ottawa area. We found a lot of success there. It puts you in front of the kinds of people who are actually looking for work. Let's just say we get around 100, solid leads from a home show. We may get a turnaround of 30% of that, which is a fairly good number. People always have a reason for providing their information as a good lead, but things come up, personal stuff, they may not be ready, whatever it may be. We found a lot of success with getting around the BS and getting clients to answer the real true question is like, are you ready? Do you have the project? Do you have a budget in mind? Things like that, so that we can focus our time on the clients who really want to get a valuable renovation or a build from us. and that's proven to be very successful. So because we do a lot of home shows now, we're seeing every home show turn into a successful next home show and a very successful next home show because we're growing on what we've learned. Uh, I'm a huge advocate for trial and error. Let's try this out. Let's try out, you know, this promotion. Let's try out this booth setup. Let's try out adding in, additional sales force, things like this. And if it doesn't work, it's scrapped for the next one, or it's slightly altered, or we implement something new. So this is providing a lot of success too. So that's where I always recommend a lot of my colleagues or friends who are in the industry is get yourself in front of the people who are actually looking to renovate. If you leave yourself online and you're spending a ton of money through Google Ads or social media, these things can run up to the hundreds of thousands of dollars, which I've also spent. And now looking through the land analytics, it's very time consuming and expensive to do the home shows, but it produces very good analytics in the end. So, we're big on that. We have one coming up on Thursday of next week, which we're very excited for. We're implementing a lot of new things. So we're hoping to have at least a 20 to 30% growth on revenue from this next home show.
Right. Okay. So quite a lot there, Connor. You've obviously smashing it at the moment. I was taken in your story there about in COVID you were able to innovate, yeah, whereas other people might have been in crisis or not know what to do. So
Absolutely.
there must be something about you that made you a sensible business owner and said, okay, I need to put some money away for a rainy day. I need to have
Mm.
the funds to be able to keep my staff and think about what I'm going to do. So just tell me
Yes.
a little bit about what made you you in that sense that, I mean, that must, 5, 6 years ago, um, you know, why were you ready at that point to make such mature business decisions? Who influenced you? Were you just born like that? What did you learn? How are you so how did you have that wisdom really?
Yeah. I honestly think I just unharnessed it at that time. I often say to my wife that I don't know if this was a timing thing and I was just ready to buckle down because I was in my 20s at that time and I still enjoyed, going on Friday nights and having beers with the lads and decompressing in that manner. When COVID hit, there was no more social life. It was me and my wife. And um, there was other factors at that time too that made me think, you know what, like I can't keep going on this way forever. Enjoying myself through coping, through, having a good time is not the best resolution because coming Monday and Tuesday, I might not be at full capacity anymore. So being forced to stop socializing with people, having a few months of that gave me the clarity that I needed to focus on work as one of my highest priorities instead of 50% of my priority. There was social life and then there was business and it was 50-50. And then it went up to more, of 80% and 20% social. Um, it allowed me to kind of harness my ADHD brain. I always did very poorly in school growing up. I was always in a class that was catered to somebody that could not learn in the standard systems that we have. Um, it's just I can't be in a classroom. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. I have to be physically doing something. So when I finally buckled down and harnessed this ADHD, I realized that I could multitask 30 things at once, where most people are unable to do that. I was running a business with 10 employees. I was doing all the material takeoff, all the sales, all the HR, project management, scheduling, literally everything. It's an 80-hour a week job. And I'm able to do that in, say, a 50-hour week because I could be thinking of scheduling my staff. I could also at the same time thinking about 5 open job sites and what materials may be needed and what every staff member is doing. So because I was able to kind of harness this ADHD mind and not let it get the best of me, it allowed me to really scale very quickly. My wife always says I'm the smartest person she's ever met, and that is not the sense that I had for myself growing up. I actually very much thought I was a stupid person growing up. And fortunately enough, I've been able to get by and exceed any dreams I ever had in my 20s of what business could really look like. I never thought I'd get to the point now where I'm sitting behind my desk running a company, growing it full time. opposed to working on site with my staff, grinding, and then in the evenings doing sales, invoicing, follow-ups, all that admin work, you know? So it's there's some outside influences like people that I would see and I'd say, you know what, that's the lifestyle I want. And then I would really just put that down pen to paper. Well, that's what they have. Well, how do they get it? And how do I get it? You know? And then you break it down even further. It's like, okay, we realize that they have a lifestyle like this because of funding and time. You can't buy time. So if you can, or sorry, you can actually buy time. You can't buy time back, but you can buy time if you scale yourself, you have enough resources, and you have enough volume of work that you can purchase somebody else to take over and delegate, which is what I've done. I did that with 10 employees. We changed over the last few years because we are also going through somewhat of a recession. And when I saw that work was declining, I started seeing my employees dipping off and maybe taking other jobs that were higher paying. But I also noticed that our leads were coming down. So at the same time, sorry, we also realized that there was a lot of deficiency lists coming back per project, which again, I'm happy to take over. We would lose all the profit on a project, sending our staff in for 5 more days, making it absolutely perfect. So our clients are just ecstatic, knowing that we didn't just ask for our final check and walk away. I'm the first to say, is there any deficiencies or anything we can make it even better? You know, we create a list together. I send my guys back in. Again, profits suffer, but what we've been able to establish now is a rapport with the auto community. They just know you see our logo, that client's getting a very good renovation. They're going to have a very good experience through what can be one of the most stressful encounters of people's lives. You know, there's a lot of horror stories for people getting builds and renovations because people are they're in your space, they're taking your money, you're not a professional, so you don't know exactly what they're doing. So we're educating along the way, we're providing flawless communication and very good customer service, obviously with good quality craftsmanship. So these things play a huge role on our success, and it's really led me to where we're at now, just allowing me this time and energy that goes into, you know, marketing strategies and dive into the key responsibilities of all my team. You know, every month I write down or I go through a list of my responsibilities per member, and I change things up. I see that some person's not doing something as efficiently as somebody else could. We run KPIs on what our employees are doing so we know what they're best at, where they're lacking at. We even have our clients complete KPI forms 3 to 4 times throughout every project, depending on the scale of the project, so that they're actually giving us the feedback. How's the project manager performing? How's the project manager, the designer, the delivery of materials, the satisfaction? All of these kinds of things are being filled out multiple times throughout a project that is set in play from my operations manager. It comes into my inbox, I review it, I send it back to the team. Great job, guys. You guys are getting 10s out of 10s or 11s out of 10s. You know, clients are ecstatic. The customer service is just, you know, unparalleled, and you guys are doing great, which allows me the ability to save data. And if there are things that are lacking a little bit, then it's like, okay, where are these things lacking? Is it due to my staff, or is it due to maybe a sub trade, or what are these things? And then we can implement new strategies to improve them. And that's why we're receiving 100% positive feedback throughout and after every project now. And that's what sets us apart really from everybody else, is we spend the time on crafting this customer care.
So listening to you, Connor, I feel a very strong set of values there. Yeah. Um, in the latter part of what you just said, you're talking about the values that mean that you'll go back and make sure everybody's happy and the deficiencies are dealt with. But
Yeah,
if I go back to the COVID situation, there were many business owners who just thought, I'll save my own skin, I'll lay
yeah,
off the staff, I'll lock up the shop and
yeah,
wait
wait it out.
or
Yeah,
wait it out. Yeah. And
yeah,
you chose not to do that. So those values in there, they come from somewhere, or you found them in a moment of stress. Yeah.
mhm.
So I'm just interested about what made you you in that sense, and made you have those values, and made you get to the point you went, right, I'm going on my own, I'm gonna run my own business, I'm gonna win.
Yeah. So I'm huge on personal development, especially within the last few years. I think going through therapy is something that everybody should do. I always kind of turned my nose up to it and laughed at it before I met my wife. because that's how I was raised. I was raised in the rub some dirt in it kind of mentality. Um, and I know that's not a sustainable way to live your life because there's a lot of stresses that come with that. There's a lot of insecurities, self-esteem issues that come from stuff like that. So when you actually like take or when you take something head on and it's like I have an issue, I'm not performing the best in my marriage or as a father or in my business, whatever it is, I will take full responsibility for something, even if I don't see it. My wife might say something, you're doing a little bit of this, blah blah blah. I'll never argue. I'm like, oh well, you're bringing this on. It's okay. Let me sit with that, see how I can improve that, and move forward. So I know from personal development. And going through therapy and stuff like that is a lot of stuff stems from childhood. Seeing my parents struggle through, the 90s and the 2000s because, there was the scarcity of work and money. So through those times, it made me a little bit more resilient because I never wanted to be poor. And my main goal was always to never have a stress for finances. So throughout my 20s, I was doing again pretty well for myself as like an employer of one or two guys, through my 20s. I was never worried about money, but in the back of my mind, I was always afraid that it could all just be taken away from me in the blink of an eye if there's just no work out there. So with that motivation, it pushed me to scale this company from $100,000 company to $1 million company to a $2 million to a $3 million company and so on, because the more you grow, the more sustainability you have. So that was the driving force I had.
Yeah, so I get growing a business is a way to financial and personal resilience, but
Mhm.
sometimes you can scale too much too fast, or you can scale
Yeah.
too little, right? How did you work out what is the right level of scale for you, your local market, and your ability to continue to deliver quality?
Yes, it's a great question. I have no threshold for risk. I I always leave myself a reasonable amount of resources. So if everything's belly up, I'm safe, my family's safe, and my staff too, or I should say my team. We even have for our sub trades, we have a huge list of all of our sub trades and their employees. So if anything ever happened to say our electrician and their employees have worked 2 full weeks, they're waiting on a paycheck and it's not coming. We have their information so that we can back them up and ensure that those employees are never without what's owed to them. It's things like that that I've just put in the back end, and maybe that's why I say I have no threshold for risk because I will risk everything, but I always have the rainy day fund to protect everything I built this far. But even throughout COVID, I own uh, three pieces of real estate now. Well, I'm in negotiations right now for another piece of land to build a custom home for me and my family. But I own two apartment buildings. I have 18 tenants. You know, all of that comes from being very risky. I know a lot of other people who do well like me, but they wouldn't empty their savings from 2024 and buying a very, very risky apartment building that ended up being one of the best investments I've ever made because I believed in myself and I was really not investing in real estate. I was investing in what I knew I could do with the information I had in real estate. So you have to take risk if you want reward in life. It's like you starting a podcast. It's like if you want something and the metrics are there and it can be successful, then it takes time and it takes money, and that's all investment. So, yeah, having that low or no threshold for me has been very, very helpful. And I think that does hold back a lot of people. My brother, for instance, he's starting a business as well, and I say put it all in. Don't keep your full-time job. Dump all of your time. You're going to lose money for this first 6 months, but you'll see after the first year and a half, you'll be back on your feet. It'll be the best decision you ever made because you'll be into it full force. So
Yeah, I think you've articulated a very personal view of how you do risk management, yeah? And that's about you having assets behind you to give you the confidence to take
yes.
risk in your business, yeah? Other people I know don't take those personal risks and they like borrow money against the business, which in
Mhm.
one way gives them the perception of, if the business folds and the debt gets written off, it's not their problem, yeah? But on another
Right.
level, they're paying interest. They've got people after them for payments every month, right? They've actually
Mhm.
created a treadmill for themselves. So I
Oh,
think that's
absolutely.
quite fascinating listening to you about your personal view of risk management and how it works for you. And
Mhm.
also in what you said about the apartments, using business speak, you've kind of vertically integrated there, yeah? You've invested in
Yes.
something that you can use your own skills in to increase the asset value and give
Yes.
yourself more upside.
Well,
That's
exactly. Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you play the numbers, if it's a numbers game, right? Me investing in a real estate, if it makes sense financially, and I set a goal and I say, well, it's going to take 150K to renovate this apartment building to get it up, get rent up from $1,000 to 1750 per unit. If the numbers say it will work, I know that my skill set and my brain can make it come to fruition, right? So, um, again, are you willing to take the risk and put yourself on the line and what you think you know to make things happen? And yes, any really good business owner who has scaled, these big corporations, they have risked, everything. A lot of people like, whether it's Apple or whoever these guys are who started in the garages and they've just put every dollar into the business. That's a lot of what I've done. And me having the financial assets is only because I have built the company. I built a volume of work and I have built metrics that say, well, you need to have 5 ongoing jobs at all times. You need to get a certain amount of projects done per year. You need to have certain targets financially that you're going to hit to make this all sustainable, and you need to hit targets to make it grow. So, if I'm working within that and we are on targets, it gives me the ability to say, it's time to take some risk. Getting towards the end of the year, there's some apartments coming up. Let's take a look at what's on the market and get into negotiations. So, that's what we're doing right now with this piece of land. You know, it's the logical next step for us. We're a growing family. I've been in a 1,000 square foot bungalow for the last 5 years. It's a beautiful home. We've made it our own, but we're expanding our family. We need to have a little bit more separation between my home office and my daughter's playroom and these kinds of things. So I think, between my wife and I, we made that decision. Let's do it now before the increase of real estate goes up in, 5 years when we might logically be ready for it. Let's take the risk now, knowing we can probably invest, save our money, put the money into it and play the numbers out. So again, that's where I'm at and that's what I thrive on.
Right. Okay, let's move back to your business a bit more. So, tell me a bit about the competitive environment. What makes the leaders, the winners, and the losers in your mark, and how is that market changing?
Yeah, so in terms of the competitive culture, um there's a lot of key players in Ottawa, the A companies who have scaled. I truly believe any big contractor or builder started off probably where I was 10 years ago. Either they got themselves educated in construction or they were running a general contracting company, and they had the business sense to scale it, incrementally step by step until they became a custom home builder into a developer and then into a major developer. Like we have like Tamarack and Minto and companies like that in Ottawa, and that's where my roadmap is leading. So we're getting into more custom home builds year after year. So we'll eventually get into the development phase of things, but again, it's building assets, it's building credibility and things like that. So in terms of competitive stuff, you just have to uh, you got to love your company. You got to love what you do so that your clients can see it and they see the respect you have for your company, which translates into the respect you have for them. So as long as you're providing, good quality craftsmanship and good customer service, your clients can see that. They can repeat that information, whether it be online or verbally to the friends and family or whomever. And that is what creates resilience and provides the amount of work that you need to scale. So yeah, it's taken a long road to get here, but now we have that. It's the backing of our community.
So, are you able to articulate what makes the winners in your market? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the winners in the market are the ones who take the risk and invest in their business to create a full brand narrative, a vision, and core values, and make sure that every single team member, staff member, and client and member of the community knows what your vision is and what you're trying to accomplish.
So, in what you told me so far, you talked about you're looking after your subcontractors' employees, making sure everybody got paid. You talked to me about retaining people in tough times. You talked
Mm,
to me about you're going to be bringing on some new people now and you've been getting ready for it. So,
yes.
bring to life for me how you came up with your policies for people. How do you make that work? And as you get bigger, delegation and making sure that people have follow the culture and live the
Mhm.
values gets increasingly tricky as you get bigger. So how have you achieved that? What's gone wrong? What you've learned and what's going right?
So, yeah, that's a great question, actually. So, creating documentation so everybody's on the same page is extremely important. Um, so a new onboard, say of an administrative assistant, they need to know what the culture is of your company. They need to know what your goals are, what the narrative is for them and for our clients, so that everybody's on the same page when they talk about Capital Homes. They can say, "Oh yeah, they're building with sustainable products. Their customer service is fabulous, this and that and the other thing." And everybody should be talking the same way about a company, so there's no mishaps. So when we're onboarding somebody, we want to make sure that not only have we recruited the right person for the job, that they have all the skill sets that we need, but they're understanding what our vision is, and then they're totally on page with aligning with that moving forward.
So how many people do you have at the moment?
We have the one, two, three, four, five. So to kind of reiterate how the business looks at it from an outsider's perspective, is it used to be 10 on-site staff members, so the laborers, and I was the entire staff behind the scenes. What I quickly realized is the most successful companies are not managing or micromanaging the pawns in the company, but what they're managing is key players, A players, and management. So now I have my project manager who oversees all of our sites, deals in customer service, and ensures that all of our materials are arriving on time and our clients are happy. We then have our operations manager behind the scenes who creates all of the work orders, accounts payable, receivable, uh, provides orders for material, special order, standard stock order, stuff like that. And then we have our designer who goes through everything with our clients, ensuring that they have all the materials selected, this is the design they want, so on and so forth. Um, there is a tier of communication and a tier of workflow of how these things kind of get passed down to the next person, and it really is done flawlessly. We also have our part-time marketing manager who deals in campaign ideas. We have sessions once a week, twice a week on our upcoming campaigns and what we'd like to implement for, this coming year, blah, blah, blah. And our newest hire is the um, administrative assistant, which is very much a sales assistant because the 25% of my time that's still in the operation of the company is dealing in sales. So I'm the one who runs the on-site estimates, and I'm the one who does the estimates in office and then sends it to the client, and then nurtures that estimate or lead into a closed project. And then from there on, it gets passed over to the operations manager who creates all the work orders, gets the sub trades involved, gets the designer involved with it. They pick all the materials, so on and so forth. So by hiring this assistant, it's going to allow me to gather the details on site with the client, uh, getting all the tools we need for me to provide to my assistant to actually fill out these templates, which are standard templates that we use for kitchens, bathrooms, custom home builds, additions, whatever it might be. It really is a numbers game because everything is charged by square foot, linear foot, and quantity. So if I can go on site using, say, a fill out form, which is either a Sheets or an Excel, I plug the numbers in, I give it over to her, she fills out the form, and she's able to send that off to our clients. So it's extremely streamlined. And by hiring this assistant, it's now taking me, and it should it will take me from 25% in operations down to about 10 or 15% in operations,
Okay.
which will allow me to allocate all of my time into business development and growth and improving our company.
So did you start out with this business model of effectively you're effectively the prime contractor and you're the actual doing is with your sub trades, right? Is that where you started? Is that what you plan?
No, no, it was like I mentioned before, I got into the trades and I had a passion for carpentry, which snowballed into kind of every trade. I realized quickly that I was just really good at everything. I guess it's because I anything that I'm learning, either I'm going to go 100% and learn it as good as I can, or I won't do it at all. So becoming very good at most trades. Um, it allowed me to hire some staff members to help me, but without any business sense, it didn't really grow. There's no retention of a helper, and then there's slow seasons and you have to lay them off. So once we started to scale and I got upwards of 10 employees, we had five very skilled guys and we had five helpers. So that sites were always moving smoothly and the skilled guys were spending their time doing skilled work. And then the helpers were helping them achieve that, right? Kind of cleaning up after them, mixing things for them, just prepping them along the way. And that creates a lot of efficiency. So yeah, sorry, I think I got a little bit caught up there and I think I missed the point of that question.
Yeah, let me ask the question in a better way because I was thinking I didn't ask it that well. So my questions really was that a conscious decision to change the model. One day you woke up and went, you know what? These projects are easier, better, and I can do more of them. Did you sit
Yes.
back and say, right, I need to work out how to scale my business and dream up the model? Or did you just evolve that way? I mean, as a business leader, I'm interested in,
Right.
what was your process to get to this business model that's now thriving?
It's just ambition. Honestly, I couldn't say 5 years ago I ever would have pictured this for my company. And something worth mentioning too is I have a business coach who I hired a few months ago. I wanted to hire a business coach or a consultant in my first year of business. I just thought, okay, I don't have the knowledge. I'd love to scale this quicker than what I'm doing. But it's very hard to get a coach or a consultant when you're already working 40 hours, 50, 60 hours a week, because they typically give you homework because they're teaching you how to scale your company and grow your company. It was only to the point where I have very big appetite, so my ambitions are always to get further and further and further. Every time I accomplish something, there's a new milestone that's set that says, okay, we've accomplished this. Now let's get to this level and this level and this level. And that's what I explained earlier by building yourself a roadmap. I didn't just say, hey, I want to be a $10 million company in a year from now. It's okay. I want to be, a $5 million in 6 months, and I want to be a $6 million in 1 year from now, and then I want to be, X amount and X amount and X amount. And when I say like a gauge of $1 million company, it's about the revenue and the size of my company at that stage, right? And all the components that are involved there. So it's just being very ambitious and allowing yourself to see that, you've accomplished something, pat yourself on the back, but there's new growth to happen. And growth is my, I guess my number one high. It's what gets the dopamine going in my brain every time something's accomplished. I'm a huge tasker. So if I have 10 tasks a day. As I'm checking them off, I'm feeling great about myself. I have a hard time sitting still. If I go on vacation for 2 weeks with my family, I'm almost looking forward to getting back to my task management. So it's again that ambition and that's how I've gotten where I am today. And that's why Capital Homes will be $100 million company one day. We will be a developer because we've done the work. We've built the roadmap. It's all tangible now. And I've proven to myself that anything is possible. And without actual real education, I'm educating myself along the way, and I'm hiring the right people to give me the tools I need to coach myself and train myself. Like I got a physical coach, I have a golf coach, I have a business coach. Uh, dealing in therapy. So it's all of these things. No one person can just do it all on their own. And if you look for outside sources to help you along the way, and you can financially afford these kinds of things, there's no reason why you can't be as best as you physically can or mentally can in everything you do in life, really. So that's that.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's a great personality trait to be open and learn from people. Yeah. And the trick there, I guess, is finding the right people. But let's move on, change the subject a little bit. So, um, what systems and tools have transformed your business? Yeah. How have you set that up? How did you find out what were the right things to do? How did you choose? How did you make the decisions to what did you bet in terms of investment in the way you work?
So investing into systems was a big thing. So investing into CRMs for a very long period of time, like an old dog, new tricks kind of mentality. I didn't want to evolve past using Excel sheets and Word documents to provide estimates. It's what I knew, it's what I built, and for a long time it's what I knew. But when you look at a larger company and they're using CRMs that are not only project managing, they're doing accounts payable, they're doing design, they're doing your estimates. There's features in there using AI and streamlining and stuff like that. Once I really got into using a program that we called House, it allowed me to use this vision that people are seeing from the outside while we're actually working, but now integrate it with the administrative part of things. And now they're receiving really professional estimates and invoices, and everything is kept, nice and clean and tidy in terms of filing. That's really allowed me to scale things because it's teachable. I've been able to teach it to my project managers and my operations managers and any new staff that comes aboard because we're using a teachable system.
Okay. And is that just a standard industry piece of software? Yeah.
There's a lot of options out there for what people would like to use in terms of project management software and CRMs. This is the one that I landed on years back. There's a huge learning curve to all these programs. And because of that, we have stuck with this one. We integrate certain things to it. We may grow out of it one day, which I would almost bet that we do as we scale. But for the time being, it's working very well for us.
Okay. And in terms of technology, have you thought about innovations that will help you scale or differentiations that will help you scale, help you grow your market with technology?
Yeah, AI for sure. I'm huge on ChatGPT. The highest level you can have is what you should have. I say it to my peers all the time. If you're not using ChatGPT and you're in business, you're doing yourself a disjustice because I've been able to create hundreds, if not 1,000 SOPs, KPIs, scripts, to-do guides, all these things by using AI programs like ChatGPT and Loom to teach my team things. If I have to rewrite the book physically, I don't know how people did it 30 years ago. I don't know how you would have scaled IBM 30 years ago by manually writing SOPs. Now, when I'm doing this, I teach ChatGPT everything it needs to know about capital homes, and then I tell it to produce me a product by prompting it with specific words, and it gives me files that are organized, very clear, easy to read. Again, the more you prompt these things, the more of an expert you are at using AI, the more you're going to be able to scale your business in a very short period of time or in a realistic amount of time, I would say.
And in terms of innovation for people who might want to work with you, yeah, I don't know enough about the CRM you use, but how's that customer experience enabled with technology?
Yeah, so that's the thing too, right? You use the proper tech. The clients have client portals where they can discuss their wants and needs and uh, possible issues on projects right through the CRM. It notifies all of the team. Uh, their subcontractors and employees are able to also use this for the projects. They're able to see the files that are available to them per project. It creates timelines and schedules again, so it's further streamlining things. And instead of taking all of this information and all these difficult things and creating them down on paper or different programs, it's all being able to be done in one place and everybody can access it. And you can limit the access to who needs to see what. So it makes it very professional and personal.
Okay. And so, do you find one of the things I've found in my career doing digital projects is you're always at the limited by the digital literacy of your customers, yeah. So, how have you found that? Yeah, because you can have older people who are really good, and you have younger people that only know how to use three buttons on a phone. I mean, have you found that they're trying to deploy technology to your customers?
So, okay, that's actually a really good question. I have a pretty good answer for that. We've had a lot of experience with clients who want to get called opposed to emailed. For us, obviously, the best course of action is they check our website, they fill out the thing, it gives us their information. Um, because they filled out their name, their address, their phone number, when they want to start their project, and when they're hoping to get their estimate plus a description, I now have everything I need to actually assist you, opposed to getting on the phone call and me taking my pen and paper and writing something down that I can't even read myself. You know, um, these kinds of technologies are what produce us the best type of client. We might do a home show and we have an option for clients to fill out on the iPad, put their information in, and submit for the chance to win and provide themselves as a lead. We also have people who want to write it down physically on paper. They put down their name, their phone number, and what they're looking to renovate, and then they're going to put it in a Dropbox. We might say get 30 of those in a home show, and I can guarantee you we'll close maybe like 1% of those where the people who are actually using the technology are closing at a much higher rate. So we don't stress ourselves too much on the clients who don't want to get on board and use the technology. It's not like we're introducing things that are not usable or understandable. Again, the CRM that we use is very user friendly for our clients. Same with our sub trades. It's plug and play. It's click. It's like using your email. So if you can use your email, you can use our CRM. So it is very simple. We just don't want to waste too much of our time. And if we call a client a lead, for lack of a better word, we want the ones who are going to work with the systems that we have in place so that we don't struggle throughout the project. Because if you're a client and you don't use email, this isn't going to work out. I can't spend the 10 extra hours myself on writing up the estimate, printing it off, delivering it to your house, having the conversation, hopefully closing, coming back, picking up a check. Like all of these things cost me way too much time. My time's too valuable. Even if it was a full-time estimator or somebody else within my staff, their time to me is too valuable to be doing something archaic like that. So for the clients who are on board and they use, the payment systems in our CRM, like it's beautiful. We're no longer collecting checks. I would say in 2024, we were collecting hundreds of checks. And towards the last quarter of 2024, we just bit that in the butt and we said, you know what, we're just going to pay the 3% charge fee and use the CRM finally, and it has saved us. It costs money for sure, but it saves my operations and project manager so much time to not collect checks, every day from this client or that client and actually go and deposit them and then log the information. It's all being streamlined. It's all done in the system. So using the tech you have is very important, and most tech out there now is pretty user friendly. Whether it's for the person who's purchasing the CRM, learning it and teaching it to their staff, or just the client. So they do typically make these easy to use. Yeah.
Okay, so that's an interesting approach. You're effectively self-selecting your customers based on their technical literacy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the majority of the market, though, I should say that. Like, let's
yeah.
just say 95% of people are able to use uh, email and stuff like that. So it's not like we're narrowing ourselves down. That is something worth mentioning too, is the reason why I didn't just come out as a contractor and just do hardwood flooring is because obviously I saw that there's a lot more leads out there than just hardwood or tile jobs. Why not specialize in everything as a GC? So that way my pool of buyers is much larger. So yeah, that's I think a good explanation for that.
Okay, so earlier on you were telling me about your business, and you've demonstrated it in this conversation. Your business is flooded with KPIs and metrics. You understand the measurement of your audience and your lead rates based on channel, demographic, and so on. So tell me how you run your business day to day with KPIs, and you told me ChatGPT created most of them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're then loading that into something, right? So
Yeah.
and you're getting more and more abstract from the business, as you said, working on the business,
Yep.
and you're conscious even of the percentage of time you're working
Mhm.
in the business, right? So tell me about that KPI journey and how it's evolved.
Well, if you're talking about like say, let's just say a simple KPI that we would have would be um, quality of project management. So there's going to be 10 things involved with that, which is um, let's just say three parties are involved from my team that are involved in it. How are they doing? How's the sub trades performing? How's the cleanliness? How's the deliverable? Blah 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 blah. So th these are one of the first KPI templates that I created. Um, and then I decided, you know what? It's good that we're following with the clients, 1 week in, 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, and then possibly months in, depending on the scale of a job. And when that KPI comes back in, it comes into my operations manager, which gets shared with me. As long as there's no red flags on there, immediately I let them know, send it off to the team, congratulate everybody on doing an amazing job, blah, blah, blah. And in the back end, we're keeping these wins in the back of our mind, actually like almost in a vault where we're saying we're giving bonuses out or we're showing our appreciation to every team member in one way or another. And without KPIs, everyone's just kind of working in a hamster wheel and working off of KPIs. We're seeing what works, what doesn't. And if things don't work, you make the change. You scold the people who need to be scolded if need be. And if they're winning, then you make sure that they know they're winning as well. And you're congratulating them and then you're rewarding them for it too. So we run KPIs in everything, whether I even run KPIs on myself, run KPIs on our home shows. We just get analytics from everything, and that way it's actually measurable and allowing you to adjust accordingly.
So what are those KPIs telling you about your business? What are your current problems? How good is your cost efficiency? How great
Hmm.
is your process optimization? What is your utilization? What's the data telling you?
Yeah. Uh, I'm happy to say that I can't talk too much about issues because we've implemented so much strategy due to working from KPIs that have improved the company dramatically. Like there's just not that much. Most things aren't skipping a beat. I would say um, some metrics that we're getting from using KPIs is showing us that there are months of the year that prove to be slower times. A lot of people think, oh, summer, you must be so busy. It's like, yeah, for sure, we are busy, but there are no leads coming in throughout those times. We also measured out from 2024 that we saw, um, while we're so busy through September, October, and November, because we have a disruptive month with Christmas involved, we're not able to hit our target of revenue in those months. And then typically because you end up with January of having a strange first week because of New Year's, you usually lose a week there too. So in a 4 week cycle for a month, if we're not performing 4 weeks, we are losing a quarter of our revenue. So we're able to take those metrics and influence the rest of our year. Okay, now we're gonna make April, May, and June. Instead of five ongoing jobs, we're going to bump those up to 8 ongoing jobs, 10 ongoing jobs to ensure that we are reaching our financial goals throughout a year, you know?
Okay. So
That's one of the
there's
difficulties. Yeah.
nothing you can improve in terms of the cost base of your business, no?
Yeah, I'm sure there is for sure. I throw a lot of money at the wall and see what sticks. In marketing, you do a lot of that stuff. You throw money at Google Ads, you throw money into social media, you throw money into flyering or signs, whatever it is. And I've tried it all. But we've weighed the metrics. Like I had mentioned earlier, we weighed those metrics out from how much we spent from 2024, and we quickly realized so much money has been spent and there's no turnaround that came from, say, 80% of what we were doing, but the 20% that was working was mainly home show attendance. And so now we're going full force into that, and we're taking a lot of the funding that we normally spend in, say, Google Ads and social media stuff like that, and putting that back into home show stuff, adding more sales staff in there, maybe even buying a little bit more technology to invest on site so it's a better experience for our clients there, which improves our close ratio. So there's definitely some more things. I bet the more questions you ask, the more specific questions you ask, the more problems I could probably find.
Okay, so 2025, you told me you're bringing on a new member of staff. You're looking for plus 20% growth. Yeah. What does that look like in terms of, do you understand the mix of projects you want? Do you understand the flow of them? Do you know how to get that? Is that in the bag? It just needs to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a really good strategy for this year. Um, like last year, we were attending all these home shows, but they were never set out. It was always like, let's do one, see how it goes, and then buy into the next one, see how it goes, and buy into the next one. This year, or I should say 2024, in November, or sorry, actually, I should say it would have been October, flat out purchased every home show for 2025, knowing that after running the analytics and checking all our KPIs, that it was the best performing use of our money in terms of marketing. So yeah, all that money's been spent. We have a very good full year already, but we are running home shows, so there's a lot more room to fill. Uh, our goal is always to be a minimum of 4 months booked out, 5 projects ongoing at all times. Uh, with with upcoming home shows, we will get a huge influx of people who said, I want this done yesterday kind of thing. So we have to cater to these kinds of clients and say, well, once we close on a deal, we could probably get you scheduled in for anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks out. That gives us time to create our work orders, schedule our sub trades, schedule our employees, get the materials needed, do our design, blah, blah, blah. So we've also worked out a way to take on more volume in those times, because my project manager might say, man, I'm drowning. These are too many clients. It's hard to do this, it's do that, blah, blah, blah. So I take feedback like that very seriously, and I go to the drawing board and say, how can I alleviate his time? How can I create better time management for this staff member to take on more work without it actually being more work? And I come up with strategies that imply that they say a sub-trade or an employee could pick up more of the slack. Very easily too. My project manager doesn't need to travel an hour from one site to the next to gather information every single morning. He doesn't need to visit a site twice a day. He can do once a day or once every other day, gather the information from those on site, and we just create fill out forms. So I've created forms that our subs will say every single day, here's our checklist. And it goes right into the CRM. We can see everything that's done. Pictures are attached, and that way we're project managing. There's on-site, which is about 75% of it, and then 25% of it is done behind a computer, creating mass efficiency, and saving a lot of time, a lot of gas, a lot of mileage. So it's improved things dramatically. And once we get to another point where I see, okay, this is too much, I will dive into that again, see how we can further create efficiency throughout everybody involved in that particular deliverable.
Right. So let me just shift a little bit. So you're a very powerful leader, right? You know what you want to happen in your business. You got a
Mhm.
clear view of what good looks like. Um,
Yes.
and you're on top of the data and on top of your people. Yeah. You talked earlier about culture. How do you balance that, um, level of power you bring to your business and presence you bring with the need for them to effectively be emancipated, take the delegated authority you give them and then show their best talent. Yeah. How do you make that work?
Well, I give everybody on my team the tools they need to do a good job, first of all. With them having the tools they need makes it very easy for me to, commend them on all their wins, on when they're doing things well. Um, I love good news. Even with my new hire, I said, like every morning, obviously there's an onboarding process, but there's a lot of things that change along the way. And I said, I love a text in the morning from you that says, this is what my agenda looks like today. It's like, fantastic. That sounds great. Midday again, she's getting used to it, sending me text, got all this stuff done, blah, blah, blah. I also see things in the CRM task lists that are just automatically coming into my inbox. This has been checked off by Cheryl or whomever. So I'm very big at keeping a culture of positive energy. If something's not going right, we set a meeting. My entire staff knows that I never get upset with them directly. If they see that I'm coming in hot over something that it's just go ongoing and will not be fixed. Um, Me coming in hot is only because it's like, let's fix this because I don't want your job to be harder than it needs to be. I truly want all my staff to enjoy their every day, and this creates retention long term. You make a good salary, you have good benefits, there's room to grow within a company, and the guy you're working for, anybody above you is providing you with the same respect. It's easy to stick around and do your job as long as you feel content in your position.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm from Britain. We have different cultures. There's a lot more introvertism, I think, compared to the kind of culture you're communicating there. So is this something you find that people have to naturally naturally find fits, or do they have to get used to it? How does that
No,
work?
you have to you have to find a natural. I was just on the phone with my operations manager last night actually, and we were talking about this. We got a new designer in 2024, and my operations manager works with her very closely throughout the design process. And he says, I have not one bad thing to say about her. I love her to death, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, that's because she's exactly like you and exactly like the project manager, and exactly like me. If there's work to get done, we get it done. We all understand that communication is one of the key components of any business. I need something now. Everything is fast paced in our business. So if a client needs information and I got to ask my operations manager and he has to ask the sub trade or the architect or something like that, they all know what Capital Homes expects. So we are only working with people. We've been through sub trades. We've been through structural designers. We've been through designers. There's a lot of testing the market to see exactly what you need as a company. Now I really know exactly what we need from every single team member. So when we're going through the interviewing process, say for a designer or an administrative assistant, we explain exactly these things that we very much value communication, a positive attitude, the willingness to work, to get things done, to push through, to provide really good service to our clients and the members of our team. So those who, if I interview 100 people for administrative assistant job, which I think I did, my hire was somebody who aligned with me perfectly. They understood what my vision was. They understood the morals that I have for my business. So it was an easy choice for me to make, even though there was some, say, gray areas of what I understood from her past experience. I'm like, her attitude aligns perfectly with mine. So no matter what, at the end of the day, I think with the positive things she has from her experience aligning with the attitude she has, it's a perfect fit. And I think that maybe subconsciously for years I was onboarding people and working with people that had that same mentality, but it's only, in the say last 20 or in 2024 that I knew it. That's what I was looking for. And then I started physically and mentally and asking from this from people to ensure that's what I got. So I didn't have to go through a trial and error with a new assistant, for instance.
Yeah, I think you've become a lot more conscious leader, haven't you? In terms of
Yeah,
understanding how you want it to be and feeling okay about wanting it to be like that and making
yeah,
that
absolutely.
your selection criteria.
Mhm.
Right. So 2025, you've got a plan. You know how you're going to do it. You've booked the marketing. It's about execution. Earlier on, you
Mhm.
said 100 million company, 100 million, a company worth 100 million, or was that 100 million turnover?
That's the value of the business.
Value of the business. Right. So when are you going to be a 100 million company?
I would love to do that 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
Um, if you're wondering on how we're going to do that without going through every step and stage, it's about scaling the volume of what you can accomplish in a year. Of course, we know if we want to be $100 million company, we're not going to be a team of five. It's going to be a team of 30, 40 people. So when you build a roadmap to that size, you have to say, what does that company have? How much members of HR do they have? How much members of HR do they need for this much staff? How many project managers are going to be needed for this volume of work? How many designers are needed? How many real estate agents are you going to need on this? Like all these kinds of things, because that $100 million company is a development company, purchasing land, developing spaces for a growing city like Ottawa. Ottawa is a pretty small city when you really, really think of it in comparison to, say, Toronto or the GTA. and there's so much room for growth. So I truly think that we're not just like seeing that we're at the top of things now. We're at the very bottom. And I think with evolution, you're always just day one. So if you're thinking of yourself like that, there's tons of room for me to fit in as a developer here in Ottawa. But my vision is take this A1 rated construction, custom home building company and renovation company into this development company so that we can avoid all the errors that you're hearing from these other major developers, which are typically issues of install or management or process and stuff like that, right? So it's about building the foundation now to scale up to that and never letting your vision or your values suffer along the way. Some things may change, but don't let those main values suffer.
Right. So, tell me what the curve looks like. So you've taken a number of years to get to this point, and you're at a certain revenue. Yeah. How steep
Yep.
is that graph to 100 million in 10 years?
It's extremely stiff and dramatic. But then again, so has the last 5 years. Going from doing a revenue of $100,000 a year to around $3 million a year in 5 years or so is pretty dramatic. So that tells me as long as I've got my roadmap and I've broken it down into simple, obtainable steps, I can accomplish really anything I want. It's a big goal, and the reason why I set such a big goal and I didn't make it, 20 million or 50 million. 20 million is easy to reach, but I know what revenue can be produced from developments. And if you look at it and say like a square kilometer, or if you go to 10 square kilometers, I know how large those revenues jump because there are metrics to measure that stuff. You can look it up online. So that gives me the ability to say, okay, um, that's where we want to be in 10, 15 years at that, like, say, 20 square kilometer purchase of land where we have backing from the bank to put in the infrastructure to get the homes built and go on from there. Because again, that's all information that I've studied up on of, even how do you get involved with the banks? How do you get involved with structuring a deal that big? You know, uh, it's stuff like that, right? So it's setting goals and breaking it down. I'll say that again. A big goal is great, but you have to break that thing down as small as you possibly can. If you have a goal of $100 million and you see 100 large steps in there, I would say break that down into another 100 steps per 100 steps. And then you're going to quickly realize, "Oh, I'm going to break that down even further because there's little things that gradually get you to a success of something that is quite small, but it's like me creating SOPs for absolutely everything that goes on in my business. You could come in now and I could say your job is in sales. Go to the SOP folder and you'll see how to do everything in your job. You're going to know how to set up your email. You're going to know how to run a lead. You're going to know how to run an estimate. You're going to know how to use the systems, every single thing. And this is one of the key components in starting a company, or sorry, building the foundation of a company is I didn't have these things before, but I do now. And now I know it's scalable at this point now. Anybody could come in, replace my project manager because there is a user guide that's very robust.
Okay, right. So let's move into the sort of closing part
Mhm.
of this podcast. So let's talk a little bit about your summary of what you learned. So, what advice would you give others facing similar challenges? What would you say to another 20-year-old version of you?
That's great because I do it all the time. Honestly,
Yeah.
I like coaching. It is extremely satisfying to me to take the information that I've learned. I've spent a lot of money learning this too, right? And passing it along. Uh, I would say go all in, get your focus down, set your goals, and then build your roadmap before you jump into it head first. It's very hard to do these things, but once you start writing things down, writing your goal down and working backwards, always working backwards towards, where you are today is the best way to accomplish anything. Uh, by working backwards, it allows you to figure out, can I even afford this? How much is it going to cost me? How much time will be going into this? Who's going to be involved? What do I need from externals? What do I need from internals? What do I need from inside my household, from my family? Like it's really doing the back steps to see yeah, I want to be, a competing builder in this city, and then saying, okay, what is it going to take to obtain all those things? So first step is creating your vision and building your roadmap.
Okay. What's the hardest lesson you learned on your journey so far?
Um, Probably that it shouldn't have taken me this long. But I was in my 20s, and again, my time was divided between running a business and my social life, of course, as most are. Uh, I always wanted to scale, and I was always a very high stress person. But it's because my focus wasn't on the right things. So my biggest regret would have been definitely taking too long to realize that my life would eventually get a lot easier by working harder and making my life more uncomfortable. So getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Okay, excellent. And I guess with part of that is there was a decision when you decided to take responsibility, yeah?
Yes.
Responsibility for your life and yourself. And is that what you wish you knew earlier on? Is that
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But it takes a very conscious person to understand that taking responsibility, because it is extremely uncomfortable for somebody who's never done it, uh, that the more you do it, the easier your life becomes. Like I'm gonna say it, I'm a great husband, and I feel like my wife's actually very lucky because I take responsibility for absolutely everything. 5 years ago, I would not have said that. I would have been stubborn. I would have fought tooth and nail about my performance in the relationship and this and that and the other thing. But now there's an issue. I'm gonna take responsibility for it and try to see it from her perspective, and then apply some strategy to make those changes to make her life better, which in turn makes my life better. So the more you take responsibility, the more you will improve your life. Because if you're improving somebody else, that's somebody else in your surroundings, typically their feedback is good for you. So
Yeah, I think I want to finish on that actually. That you basically very powerfully said it's all about taking responsibility for your own success in your own life and everything
yes,
that goes from there. So
absolutely.
fantastic. So that's been incredibly insightful. What I'd like to do for our listeners is, if you just want to talk for a minute about how people could contact you
Yep.
for your business and give those details, then we'll include that.
So if you'd like to get contact with us at Capital Homes, you'd go to www.capital-homes.ca. Our social media is at Capital Homes OTT.
All right. Thank you, Connor.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing back from you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.